What up? Peace. Mike Elohim, what up? First time going live. Today I want to do a few things. I want to talk about a lot of stuff. Let's see what we can do. First thing we're going to do is clear the energy. Got a cheap torch. Let me make it work. Got these big old sage bundles. Ashe, welcome to the live. How you doing today? All right, here we go. It's a beautiful day today. We're going to be doing some generational building. What's up, new user? How you feeling today? Comment how you feeling. So I'm going to talk about a few different things. One thing we're going to talk about is astrology. We're going to talk about numerology. We're going to talk about human design. All these tools are made to help you realize who you are and find your purpose, gain power, and live in your prosperity, right? It's really easy. What do you love to do? What is your purpose? That's almost the same thing, if not the same thing. That's if you like to dance, if you like to make music, if you like to help people. How do you like to help people? And a lot of times from our traumas or our past experiences, we learn to heal. And in that healing, after we finish healing, after we do the shadow work, people come and they see us and they say, man, how did you overcome this? Welcome to the chat. How did you overcome this? How did you get better? Man, last year I saw you and you were down in the dumps, you were working hella hours, and now you're a whole new person. Like, what did you do? How'd you do it? A lot of times, and these tools like human design and astrology, they've been demonized, and also they've been hidden from us. And the way that they're taught or the way that's been given, it's kind of hard to understand. So whenever you could take some time, do some research, pray about it, meditate, and whenever you find out about your human design chart, your astrology chart, it kind of looks like a bunch of mumble jumble stuff, a bunch of scribbles and stuff, but you get with somebody like myself or somebody, a reader, somebody who can interpret your chart, or you can learn how to interpret it yourself, right? I remember when I first found out about astrology, my homie was telling me about it, and I was like, man, there's no book that can just tell me who I am, you know what I mean? And that's kind of the ego talking right there, you know what I mean? What's up, new user? Come on in. So, thank God for my homie. His name is I Am. You should check out his channel. But he used to always tell me, like, man, things about Virgo. You know what I mean? I'm a Virgo myself, by the way. And it would be like, people, welcome to the group. People would be like, Virgos are real analytical. They're judgy, and they think they know everything. And that's just like, I remember one of the things I told him. I was like, man, astrology can't tell me what to do. I make my own destiny. You know what I mean? That's kind of like Mars talking right there. You know what I mean? My boy Junior, what up? Come on in, dog. But yeah, once we learn about who you are in astrology, and then you find out about your human design, you're able to start mapping out who you are, right? You start figuring out what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and how to grow in them, and how to start building the life that you want to live. I'm not super rich. I come from a crazy childhood, but I learned that all these things that we go through, they shape us for who we are now, right? So, like I said, a lot of people, we don't know who we are. They tell us who we are, right? By telling us like, oh yeah, you're a good mechanic, or you're good at your hand, you should be a mechanic. You know what I mean? You're good at this, you should be this. And it's all innocent and loving, but at the end of the day, only you know what you want to do. And maybe you don't. You don't know what you want to do, and you must realize that the things that you want to do, from child, you wanted to do them, right? Whether that's helping people, whether that's dancing, singing, or whatever it is, like you need to capitalize on that. It doesn't matter what your situation is. If you have children, if you have a bunch of bills, all these obligations, they don't matter. At the end of the day, you're here to fulfill your purpose in life, right? Your why. That's important, to find out your why. Why are you here? Do you know why you're here? If you know why you're here, comment why I'm here down below. We could talk about it. But besides that, a lot of times people don't know why they're here. They don't know their purpose. Besides, they say I hear a lot of times people say, well, I'm here to live for my kids, or I'm here to, live for a job or my career. And it's more than that, right? So at the end of the day, it doesn't mean to be selfish, but it is selfish, right? Because at the end of the day, your kids are going to grow up. They're going to do their own thing, and you need to do your own thing too, right? So back to the tools. So when you find out about your astrology, who you are, depending on what time you were born, your date of birth, it kind of gives you like a stat sheet of your strengths, right? Like I said earlier, I'm a Virgo, and I'm really analytical, and I help diagnose things, and that was really one of the things that helped me be a really good mechanic. I was able to diagnose a lot of the problems that machines came in. I was able to listen to what was going on. I was able to talk to the customer and listen to the complaint, and then I would do research, and then I was able to, from there, diagnose and repair the machine. And it's similar to us humans. We don't even know how we function, right? And I'm going to be jumping from different tools. I'm going to jump into human design right now. So human design teaches you what your function is and how to use your energy, right? And even energy sounds like some woo type of stuff, but it really isn't, right? So in human design, they got 5 types. They got the manifester. This is the fire starters, the sparkers, like the salesman, right? And they got the generators. These are the hard workers. Most of the time, a lot of us humans are generators. And they have a new type, it's called the manifesting generators. That's like myself. They're multi-hyphenate people who can do multiple things all the time, always opening business, have always stuff running all the time. Then you have your projectors. Projectors are people who can see. They literally like the word in the name, projector. They can project future, or they can see what's going on. It doesn't even have to be future. It can be events that happen right now, events that has happened in the past. They're able to see all these things, right? And once they see it, they can project it into the now and tell you what's going on. And then the last one is the reflector. These are probably the most rare of all the design types, and they are like the HR group, right? The HR team. It's only like 1 or 2 HR members, and they what they do is they watch the whole company. They make sure that everybody's doing good, and they kind of give you an evaluation, right? That's what a reflector does. So knowing your human design type is so important, because now you're able to use your energy correctly, right? And it's not just about a title, right? So I'll give another example. I have a good friend, her name is Brittany. I had told her about human design, and she was a nurse. She was working 12 hours or more a day, hella hard worker. She had 2 kids. She has 2 children, and she's like, oh, she's a busy mom, busy person. And when I did her human design reading, and she found out that she was a projector. One thing about projectors is that they have a small battery, but their battery is really strong, meaning a projector can focus really well, and they can bring things, like I say, they can project things into the reality so all of us can see what's going on, and we can have a better picture of things, right? I'll give an example of another. I'm going sidebar here, but keep up with me. So example, sometimes, like I have a shop, I have an office, and at the back of the office, I have a gym, and I do martial arts in there, and I do personal training, all kind of fitness, all kind of things like that. But I have all my equipment out there, my mats on the floor. I have all kind of gym equipment. I have Wing Chun dummies. I have punching bags. I got ropes to climb on. But the only thing is, I haven't really colored it. I didn't paint it. I didn't paint the walls. They're kind of like brown, you know what I mean? Whatever. No big deal. Warehouse. I've been working like that for a while now. And when I brought her to my office, and I was like, "You're a projector," and she was like, "Yeah, okay. What does that mean? Show me what that is." And after time passed, I was like, I showed her a tour of my office, and then I showed her the shop, and I was like, she was like, "Man, what?" As soon as she walked in there, she was like, "It's really nice, but why you ain't never paint it?" And I was like, I really don't know what color to paint it. You know what I mean? I was like, I want black. I love black. My favorite color is black. I mean, it's green. I like green. Maybe I do green. But I really couldn't decide what color, so I never really went for it. So I kind of just left it like that. I'll be putting up tapestries just on the wall, because that's what I like. I don't really focus too much on the projection of what it should look like. But she was like, I was like, "What color do you think I should put?" So me being a human design coach and being a spiritual friend, I know now she's a projector. So now you ask to empower projector, you ask them a question, right? Yeah, to empower everybody, depending on your human design, you ask them questions, right? Certain questions. So if you're a projector, you ask them, "What do you see?" You know what I mean? Or how do you see this? You make them show you through their mouth what they see, because sometimes we can't see it. Like I told you earlier, I couldn't see what color I wanted to put. It was so many different options, and that's me as an MG, as a manifesting generator, having so many different ideas. Like, oh, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this, and then you have a projector coming through, and they give you a focus and energy, and she's like, yo, color it white. And I was like, what? Why white? And she was like, because if you color it black like you wanted, it's to make the room small, it's gonna make it hot. If you color it green, it's not gonna give you the vibes that you're going for. You know what I mean? You need to color it white so you can do content, and it's like a nice zen in there. Okay, I was like, all right, cool. So I have a couple other friends who are projectors also. And, you know, again, me being a manifesting generator, I like options, you know what I mean? And I was like, let me ask my other homie who was a projector, and I asked him, hey man, what color should I color the shop? You know what I mean? And he was like, white, immediately. He wasn't even there. And that's the power of projector, right? They're like, yo, boom, this is what it is. They can see it with their mind's eye, with their third eye, and they're like, yo, this is what it is. But sometimes as a projector, you have this really cool power, like you know a lot, and you're really skilled. And that's without going to school, right? That's just her natural gift, their natural gift. But if you don't ask them for help, if you don't say, hey, can you guys help me figure out what color I should paint my shop, then they won't give you that help, right? So you might have a gold mine right as a friend right next to you, and you're struggling with this problem, trying to build your business or whatever, you paint your shop, paint your whatever, and you have a whole projector right there, and they can help you see the vision better than you can see it yourself. I'm not saying that you can't see it yourself. You will see it over time, but they will help you, right? So it's all about shortcuts and learning how to be efficient with your time, right? So anyways, that's kind of the power of projector. They're able to see things very clearly. Okay, check this out. So then I went to the store, right? I went to Walmart and I went to go buy some paint. And they got like 7 different kind of whites. So I'm like, damn, which white do I get? This one looks cool. This one looks good. You know what I mean? And then I sent them a picture. I said, which white? All of them messaged me the same white, this white. And I'm like, wonderful. No more thinking, no more second guessing, no more none of that stuff. I went over there and I painted, and guess what? Very rare, but she was out there helping me out. She helped me paint my shop, and it was great. You know what I mean? So that's the power of a projector. Really quick example. I kind of gave you the example of a manifesting generator, right? Like myself, I'm always doing multiple things. So like at my office, I have the front room. I do consultations. I do human design consultations. I do business consultations. I do all kind of consultations, spiritual consultations. That's in my front room. And then in the middle room, I have what I call a creation cave. You know what I mean? It's where I do creating, I do workshops, I do all kind of things there. And in the back, I made it to where it's my gym. I work out myself there. I train in different ways, and I do martial arts there as well. What's up to everybody in the group? Drop your human design name or your human design type if you know what human design type you are. I'm gonna keep moving. So anyways, the way I set up my shop is the way I'm able to move in my human design type, which is a manifesting generator, multi-hyphenate, right? I have this energy like a generator where I'm able to work real, all the time for a long period of time, but only for the things I like to do, right? And that's what it comes down to. Human design, this whole thing, I'm not gonna make this whole thing about myself. The whole thing I'm trying to explain to you guys and show you guys is that once you find out what your human design type is, right, then you're able to know how to move your energy. I remember one time, when I was younger, people would say to me, you need to find one thing that you love to do and focus on that. When they used to tell me that was so like, I ain't trying to hear that, man. You know how many ideas? Like, I got so many things I want to do. I can't just focus on one thing. If somebody ever told you that before, comment on there before. Anyways, whenever they tell that to a manifesting generator, it's like scratching the chalkboard with a fork. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't trying to hear that. I got so many things I got in my mind I'm trying to do. Versus somebody else who's a projector, they have a focusing energy, like we said. They're going to be whenever you tell them that, they're like, yes, wonderful. Back to the original story. I told Brittany, the projector, I said, yo, you're a projector. That means you have a small battery. That means you need to focus on relaxing more. You need to rest a lot more. I know you have this crazy life. You're working 50 million hours a day and all this crazy stuff, and you have kids and you have all these obligations. I hear what you're saying, but you need to restructure your life to where you need to rest more. And somebody told me to rest, I'd be like, all right, but I got a lot of stuff to do. But to a projector, somebody who just found out they were a projector, man, she was so happy. And I was, looking at her, she was just giving me this face, and I was like, what's going on? And she was like, man, nobody has ever told me to take a break, you know what I mean, to rest or anything like that. So, and she's one of my clients, and it's been a challenge for her to be able to take breaks and to be able to rest and to be able to build her business in the way she wants to build, right? So I want you guys to check her out, BWM Wellness. Her name is Brittany. She's a holistic nurse. She does all kind of transformation journeys, check her out on her Instagram and her TikTok. She's one of the people I've been working with very closely with, amongst others, and I will definitely talk about them too. But today we'll talk about her and the projector. So if, again, we're talking about human design. If you know what human design type you are, comment down below so I can see that I'm not alone about human design. And maybe you don't know what it is. It's like advanced astrology, right? So even astrology, like I said in the beginning of the video, astrology has been demonized. People think it's like, devils and demons behind you, and that's not true, right? Everybody's born, and everybody has a date of birth, and under what time and date you were born, you're going to be under a certain archetype. I guess we can say that if that doesn't offend your matrix. And depending on what archetype you are, you're going to act a certain way. And until you know about that, you automatically, accidentally, on purpose, already act this way. And you don't even know what it is. You just say, this is who I am. But then you find out about about astrology or human design, but astrology for now, you find out about it, and then guess what? You're like, I found out I was a Virgo, and I was like, man, I ain't no fucking Virgo. I don't know what that is, and I don't believe in that, whatever. And then my homie I am, check him out. He constantly kept on telling me about astrology and all these things, and I was like, he would tell me, he knows I'm a Virgo, right? Before I knew I was a Virgo, and he's a Leo, right? And that's Leos are pretty good leaders too, and they help you, right? But anyways, so he was telling me like, yo, you should check this out, check it out. He kept referring me books, and he knew kind of that Virgos like to study and stuff like that. So he gave me some information, and I would study that information. I would look at it, and I was like, man, this is kind of relevant to me. You know what I mean? I am a Virgo. I am analytical. I am kind of judgmental. I do like to be alone, but all these things. And then you know what I mean? I started looking more into it, and then in astrology, you have it's so many aspects of astrology, but one of the main things that I like to talk about is like the houses, right? So you have your 12 signs, right? You have 12 zodiac signs, right? And then once you have your 12 zodiac signs, you have 12 houses. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 houses. And each house brings a certain energy to your life, right? And there's certain, when you pull up your astrology chart, let me see if I can pull up a chart real quick. Can you see that? Does anybody know about astrology in this group? If you know about astrology, if you know what your astrology zodiac sign is, comment down below what your astrology sign is, and we could talk about that. And we can break down what your qualities are, what your strengths, what your weaknesses are, and how we can apply that to making a business. I also want to talk about not just about the tools. I really want to talk about not having to work a job, a 9 to 5, these crazy shifts. Even if it's your career, you don't have to do that, and you don't have to quit today. But we need to find out. I'm here to help you find out what your purpose is. Besides having to work so much, having to work to live here on planet Earth, it should be free to work here, and you should be able to make money from your skills. And not just the skills that you learned at a job or at a trade school or in college, but the skills that is given to you by your experiences and the things that your soul is here to give and show and express, right? We're here to express ourselves in the highest way. And we see celebrities and famous people and musicians and artists, and then, who are famous, and we're like, I want to be like them, you know what I mean? And you can be like them and even greater. And we're not here to compare and contrast and try to copy them, but it's like, you know why they're great? Because they're able to express themselves in the best way they could. So that's what we're here to do. Express yourself in the best way you can. You know what I mean? You know that song, express yourself. Like, you're here to express yourself. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to help you find out who you are. You already know. Maybe you might already know who you are. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just out here living a random existence. Maybe you just working a regular 9 to 5. My homie told me the other day, he sent me a video. It was like this guy, it was a preacher. He was saying like, God don't want you to have a job. A job is getting a pile of bricks from this side and moving it to this side. That's a job. That's a gig. You're not here to do those gigs. Now you're here to pay bills because of the obligations you have for sure. And you might need to do those gigs and that kind of job to make money to do that. But don't forget what your purpose is here for, right? Whenever you find out what your purpose is, then that's your calling, right? That's your God-given calling, whatever it is, as long as it's benevolent and it wants to help create the new earth, you know what I mean, for the collective. That's what it's all about, right? So, and it's encoded in your DNA, right? It's encoded in your DNA through your birthday, right? So in human design and astrology, they talk about the codons and the neurons and all different kind of energies that came in here from the stars. They came in here from the sun, the central sun, dropping light codes, like Dr. Valentine say, and they encoded at the right times. And whenever they dropped in here, that's whenever you were born, right? And then at that specific time, there were planets in alignment, there were stars in alignment, it was neutrinos that were coming in. There was so many different things that was happening, and it was a snapshot of you, right? And that we have that's your birth time, that's your birth date, that's your place of birth, that's all that right there. And we can decode those things, right? And a lot of times people think that these things are nonsense, pseudoscience, but if you can imagine, whenever you have whenever somebody's born and you get a birth certificate, they put the child's feet on the birth certificate, right? And what is the bottom of your feet called? That's your soul. And they use that to be able to tell, just like a palm reader can tell your hands, and look at your hands and tell your future and see what's going on with you, because this is imprinted in you. That's the same way how astrology works. That's the same way how numerology, how human design, how all these other different modalities and these tools they're here to help you find out who you are, right? You're above your job. You're more than your job. You're more than just your family, and you love them and all that. But it's like, yo, you're more than that, right? And they're gonna accept you for who you are. And even if they don't, we're here to still express ourselves to the highest degree, right? So back to astrology. I don't see nobody commenting, but if you know what your human design is, if you know what your astrology is, let me know. This is actually my first time getting on live, so I'm trying to see how to look at the comments. Comment. No comments yet. If you know what your human design type is, if you know what your astrology, your zodiac sign is, comment on there what your sign is. I'm gonna keep moving forward. I'm gonna talk about, maybe we can talk about how we can break down a little bit of the charts. I really want to talk to you about the human design charts and the astrology charts, so we can see how to apply these things. Go to my astrology. Yo, what up? You're a manifester. Yeah, what up, manifester? Join the room. Man, let's talk about the manifestors. Yeah, so manifestors, we're talking about human design, right? Ashay, come on in. Hold on, let me light it. I'm gonna light some shades for my boy. I ain't seen you in forever. We got to light some shades for you, doggy. I hope you're doing well. Okay, look, so we're talking about the human design types. The first type, manifestor. These are the fire starters of the world. I'm gonna give an example of a fire starter. It's a kind of a disagreeable example, but it's a good example. Adolf Hitler was a manifester. He was able to get the people to join into what his cause was because of how, quote unquote, great he spoke, right? So it was seemingly unorthodox, and everything was so strange on the things that he was preaching about. It was like revolutionary at the time for the beings that were there, even if it was disagreeable. And he did do a lot of bad things, and we're not condoning him, you know what I mean? But that's an example of a manifester. So you as a manifester, what are you here to do? You're here to spark the collective, right? One thing that's important to understand as a manifester is that you're not here to ask permission, right? And you're not here to ask for forgiveness neither. You're here just to do what you love to do. What's your heart desire, right? Whenever you do these things, where that means leaving work early, where that means leaving a relationship, where that means just pulling up on somebody, whatever it is you want to do, if that means you just want to be alone for a little bit and just leave and just vanish, that right there is manifestor energy, right? And you give permission to people who are not manifestors the permission to do those things, right? You show us that we can do that, right? Because it's like we had this duty and this feeling like, oh man, I'm supposed to be a good friend. I'm supposed to be a good, whatever the hell. And then I'm supposed to just be here man, that is true, but it's not true, right? As a manifestor, we're here to show people, you're here to show people that you're here to break boundaries. You're here to initiate things. You're here to spark the fire in people, right? One of the main things about manifestors, they're here to spark people, right? So I need you and all manifestors to be able to drop bombs. I need you guys to post all the time. Like, and don't post no. Hold on. You can post whatever you like, right? Yeah. What's the nickname? It better be a good one though. It can only be a good nickname. What up? What's the nickname? But look, as a manifester, you're here to spark people, right? Through your experiences, right? All the things. Milkshake. Why milkshake? All right, look. So look, as a manifester, I know one manifester that's cold as hell. My boy right here on the chat, right? My boy Jinx. So look, check it out. My boy Jinx has so many skills. Just feel like it cool. He got so many different skills. He's a master Reiki. He's mastered this. He's so fit, man. He got all these kind of programs. You need to check him out, right? And a lot of times his programs are private. So he has private clients, right? But I be telling him like, yo, you need to post more, because whenever you post, people want to engage with you. They want to jump into these things, right? And it's like, and not just posting yourself, just posting things that are inspirational. You know what I'm talking about, man. Go check him out. Midas Azure. Check him out, man. Check him out. Anyways, so you inspire me by being yourself. You know what I mean? Right? So I'm going to give you a personal, private thing that happened whenever I met you, right? And so I met my homie at the gym. I met my spiritual brother at the gym, right? And I was focused on what I was doing. I was working out. I was working on my spirituality. I was hanging out with my mentor. I was doing all these things. I still had a job, and I was doing all these things. And I met him at the gym. I was working out, and I got to the gym, and I really didn't want to go that day. I was sore. I was tired. All these kind of things, and I still went. And I had my backpack on, and I had one of these unks on, but it was a gold one, and I had it on there, you know, representing the Kemetic school that I was studying at the time. And I was, working out or whatever. And I don't even think I even started working out. I think I just got there, put my backpack down, and I looked up, and homie was like, yo, what up, man? I appreciate it. I like your dog. And we started chopping, man. We became friends after that. You know what I mean? And I was like, yo, it's that easy. You know what I mean? You attract the people that's in your circle, right? But I'm saying that because I was like checking him out. You know what I mean? Like what he was talking about, his aura, if he was the person that he say he was, you know what I mean? He was saying he was here loving light. His gift is to help other people and be blessed and all these things. And I was like, man, that's righteous. But let me see what it is. You know what I mean? Do you eat righteous? You know what I mean? And he was like, yeah, you know, my diet is this and that. My diet is holy. And I was like, okay, righteous. You know what I mean? That's cool. But also, it's like I use him as a sharpening tool, right? You know what they say? Iron sharpens iron. So I'm like, man, I know I'm doing good because look at him. He might be more swole than I am. He might be more successful than I am. And he's doing the same things I'm doing. So I know this is the right way to go, right? Because we also model other people who are doing the wrong things, and like somebody who's, you know, selling drugs or whatever it might be, right? Who sell their soul for disagreeable things. And it's like, we see them as success and we're like, well, let me follow them and do that, right? We're looking for patterns to try to make ourselves better, make it easier, right? So that's what I'm saying. As a manifester, you're here to set examples, right? And you already do these things in your daily life. I always used to ask you these things when I used to message you. Well, what kind of pre-workouts are you taking? What kind of supplements are you taking? What do you think about this? What do you think? Man, you helped me so many times. Like, you guided me through relationships that I was dealing with, not only with women or the girl I was talking to or my mom, all kind of different things, you know what I mean? And it's so important that we have this kind of friendships and we have these kind of bonds with people around us. It's okay to go solo dolo. That's what we do. You know what I mean? We're here to go in our caves and we're here to learn, depending on your human design type, especially. But everybody's supposed to do that. And then we're also supposed to come outside and fellowship with each other, right? And like minds are awesome. And it's also important that we also surround ourselves with people who are a little bit greater than us so we can have something to aspire to, right? So I try in my group to have all 5 human design types, right? I have a manifester. I have a few manifestors. I'm the only, actually I have a few manifesting generators. I have a few generators. My sister's a generator. I have a few projectors and I have 1 or 2 reflectors. Hell yeah, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, for sure. I know one of the main things, you know, I haven't talked to you, to my homie in forever. But I remember that whenever we used to talk, I remember the talks that we used to have. You know what I mean? And I often go back to the messages that we talked about whenever I'm experiencing those things in my life, and I reflect on those things, right? And I remember you used to always tell me, iron sharpens iron and all these things, and we're here to set up this new earth, right? I don't know if you can see, I have this flag. It says New Earth Market, right? And we're here to set up the new earth. There are so many different religions and spiritual movements that talk about the new earth and how it's going to look. And they're waiting for a savior to come, but we're here to create that now, right? So that's what we're here doing, and we create the new earth by following what your desires are, your highest desires, for the benefit of all and for the harm of none. But I'm not trying to do too much preaching here when it comes down to that. But whenever it comes down to your desires and your dreams, that's what we're here to fill up, right? That's what we're here to fulfill. So whether that might be coaching, whether that might be volunteering, whether it might be building a new temple, whatever it is, even if it's small, it's important that we focus on these things, and we remove all kind of distractions, right? And we find out, before we can even do that, we have to find out who we are, right? So again, I'm going to go back to the original talking what we were conversing about. It was about human design. It was about astrology. So if you know about your human design type, if you know about your astrology, your zodiac sign, drop on the comments below what your type is, what your zodiac sign is, and we could talk about that. We were just talking about the manifestors. You guys are here you're not even setting an example. You're just here as an example. People look at you, and I was talking to somebody about this earlier. One of my clients, they were like, man, I'm always posting, but people don't like my post. You know what I mean? And I was like, it doesn't matter about them liking it. It's about you expressing yourself, right? And how you express yourself, and you show people what you've been through, what you're going through, and how you overcame, and in your classes you took, all these. Man, one thing about my boy right here, he used to always drop bombs. He used to always be like, man, look, here's this book, check it out, man. He would always drop me links and all these things. It's like network, giving me all this information so I don't have to go through it the long way. He was like, man, I tried this program. It kind of sucked for me, but you could try it out. But this, you know what I mean? Like, that's important that we do these things, right? That's what a manifestor does. A manifestor goes before anybody else, and they go look at that stuff, and they go try these things, and they go fucking practice, and they get certifications. And they don't have to get certifications, but they do anyways, because they're really good at just talking and being there and being present. But guess what? They do all these things, and then now they're the leaders of the pack. And then now everybody's like, how do we do that? And then that's what you're there for, right? To say, this is how you get here. I used to be this, now I'm this. No, I used to do this. I've been through this. This is how I got my body. This is how I got my mind. This is how I got my soul. This is how I got my spirit. Me and you were in the mystic arts together. We was in the metaphysical school together. We was looking for the philosopher's stone. You know what I mean? We was looking for how to turn anything to gold. And guess what? We found it, right? It's right here in our mind. It's in our heart. It's in our soul. And that's what we're here to do, right? So again, back to you. It's like we need somebody to look at. You know what I mean? To see that that they already went through it, and that it's okay, and that the collective can also try to do it. Me as a manifesting generator, if you hear the words, I have manifesting and I have generator in there. So I'm half manifestor and half generator. You know what I mean? So I also do these qualities. I'm gonna go into story mode real quick. I had somebody gave me a reading once, so I know I was gonna talk about my reading, but I kind of want to go back to you. You're here to set an example, right? Hey, what's up? You're here to set an example by just being yourself. Whenever you show us what you're doing, you give everybody a permission slip to do also that thing and to be themselves, right? Whenever you find out your human design type, that's one of the most impactful things. Whenever you get to and it doesn't even have to be whenever you're ready to quit. It could be you can still love your job and stay there forever, or whatever, however you want to do it. But when you find out your human design type, you get to learn what, how your energy works, and how to move with people, and how to move with your own energy, and how how certain things feel and why they make you feel a certain way. I'll give you another example. A lot of these lives I'm gonna be talking about myself, because I'm the best example for myself, right? So if you want me to talk about something else, put it in the comment. I'll definitely use you as an example or whatever, and it's not a big deal. But as a manifesting generator, again, I'm here as a multi-hyphenate person, and I'm always here to I'm here to make shortcuts. I love shortcuts. I see processes done, and I try to make it faster. I want to also, let me see if I can explain to you guys how my transition from being working the 9 to 5 to being where I am now. So I used to be a heavy duty diesel mechanic, and I went to UTI and all that good jazz. And I was working there for 10 years, not at UTI, but I was working as a mechanic for 10 years, over 10 years. I was working as a heavy duty diesel mechanic for John Deere. And I loved doing that. It wasn't no big deal, you know what I mean? And the money was good. I was getting $40+ an hour, you know, good overtime and benefits, all, you know, all that matrix, the works, you know what I mean? And that's good and all, but, you know, excuse me, I don't want to get too deep into it, but, you know, I remember when I graduated high school, before I even went to UTI, I didn't know what to do. My mom was like, you know, you got to get a job, you know what I mean? You got to go to school, you got to go to college, you know what I mean? Or you can go to the military, you know what I mean? You can do something. And I really, those options all sucked, you know what I mean? The closest thing to what I didn't even know what I wanted to do, but the closest thing that I wanted to do was go to the Art Institute or something like that, because I like to draw and I like to smoke weed and I like to just hang out with my homies and talk about life and like how we can make things better for us without working hard. You know what I mean? I'm not a lazy bum. I love to work hard. I like to, you know, you keep and sweat on your brow, all that stuff. But I was like, man, it got to be a better way. You know what I mean? I know we're not here. I remember saying this. I looked at one of my Facebook posts from way back in 2009, 2010. It was like, we're not born to just pay bills and die, or just to work and die. You know what I mean? And I've always felt like that. You know what I mean? I see my mom busting her ass as a kid, my pops, all these people. And it's like, man, it got to be a better way. They printing money out. You know what I mean? So what's going on here? So anyways, I ended up going to UTI, and which was a good school. You know what I mean? I met a lot of cool friends, and you know, friends who are my family now. You know what I mean? And long story short, like I said, I went to go work at John Deere, and I found out at John Deere that, guess what? They offer programs that you don't have to pay, and then they'll train you how they want to train you to be a mechanic for them without you having to go to UTI. So I was like, damn, I could have saved $30,000 doing that. But if you don't know, you don't know, right? So now I'm telling you, if you know somebody who want to be a mechanic, who want to work on that stuff, man, send his ass to the shop and let him talk to the foreman and let him get a, you know, an apprenticeship going versus him going to UTI and paying all this extra money. UTI is great, man, but you still got to do your own work. Whenever I graduated and I went to my interviews, they was like, do you have any more experience besides UTI? And I was like, nah, I don't. They were like, man, we need somebody with more experience. And I heard that so many times, and that was so crushing to me. You know what I mean? But luckily, I ended up working at John Deere. I worked in the oil rig. I worked in so many different places. But what I'm trying to say, not even chasing money, but just working to make the best I can and to be free to do whatever I want to do, right? Buying stuff, live freely, be comfortable, all these things. The same, the freedom and the pursuit of happiness. You know what I mean? That's what we're here to do, right? A good life and all these things. So that's kind of what I was doing. Long story short, as I was going through all these things, I was like questioning, like, man, I know it's more to life than this. You know what I mean? I was like, I know it wasn't just supposed to work so many hours and do all these things, man. It is more to life than this. And you know, I started looking into, you know, the spiritual stuff, like the gurus, like Sadhguru. I remember listening to Les Brown. I remember listening to Proctor, you know what I mean, Jim Rohn, all these other awesome speakers. And they would talk like, man, it's within, and you got to find within. What do you love to do? Your passion. And it was like, man, I remember I was a field mechanic. And I would drive my fucking field truck all the way, all around town, you know, working on machines and stuff. And I would be listening to them, you know, on the radio, blasting like, man, one day I'm going to crack the code and I'm going to figure out what my purpose is, because this is better. I can't just be changing oil and replacing cylinders for the rest of my life, man. It's a great job. It pay good, but it's more to life than that, right? So that's one of the main things. I was just in my bed, I would just churning, and I'm like, man, I know something is better, you know. And I would listen to all kind of different inspirational entrepreneur, all kind of different kind of stuff. So they give you all kind of different information, you know. And it was like, man, you know, get into a niche, you know, drop ship and all this, open your own business and entrepreneurship. All that stuff is good and it sounds good, but if you don't have a purpose, then you're wasting your time. You know what I mean? Because you can make $1 million as a toilet bowl cleaner, but if that's what you don't want to do, then you're going to hate doing that your whole life. You know what I mean? What is you here to do? You have one life this incarnation. I'm here as Mike Elohim, and I'm here to help you find out what that purpose is. That's my purpose, right? I'm here to help you build your dream because that's how I built my dream, right? And a lot of us, we're looking for this special key thing, and it's like the whole time it's inside you. That's what they were talking about. It's inside you. It's inside you. What is inside you? The wanting is inside you. That idea that you want to do. I want to open up a gym. I want to be able to help people holistically, and I want to do all that. Whatever you want to do, I want to open up a hair salon. I want to get together with the people. I want to heal people. I want to go to people's house. Whatever, the wildest dream, as long as it's benevolent, you can do all those things. That's the thing within, right? And we're here to make that into a reality. And whenever it's benevolent and is here to help the whole earth, that is what they call the new earth, right? You're here building the new earth, right? Like this business, Mike Elohim, this is the new earth business. I'm here to help people get into the new earth. And I'm not saying I'm the only way in Jesus. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm here to help you find out who you are and let's scale your business into a profitable way. Because I've read so many books. Me and my boy right here, Midas Azure, Midas Azure, we done both read so many read so many books, watched so many videos, and a lot of us have done that. And the whole time we got the juice. It's inside us the whole time. So we got all this knowledge that we done acquired and try to make a business of how to become successful. And guess what? That is where our money lies, right? Because a lot of people, they want to learn that too, and they don't want to read all the books and stuff like that, right? So we set ourselves up as teachers. So you can set yourself, we can set yourself up as a teacher. And some of the books that I recommend, it talks about you have to be able to make at least 3 ways to make money, right? A product, a service, and a teaching. Those are 3 basic things that we need to do, set up so you can make money. Again, you don't have to quit your job tonight, tomorrow. You can if you want to, but guess what? You still have to build. So it goes back down to building and to knowing what your purpose is and what you're here to do, right? So there's so many fears that we have. What if we're not good enough? What if we get sued? What about LLC? What about all these other things, bro? None of those things matter. What matters is to get started, right? And this is kind of what I'm doing today. So whenever I meet with my friends and we hang out and we have a smoke session and whatever we're doing, we're having a powwow. We always talk about businesses and how to get it together and how to, one day it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that. And man, today is today. Let's do it today. You know what I mean? Whatever that is, even if that's, just got the number 2. Yeah, right on. Today, we're going live. We're talking about the businesses, right? We're talking about what your human design type is, and I'm going to show you guys how I got myself into the position that I'm at, right? So I'm going to go back to the story. Story time. Let me hit this blunt first. So I was working at John Deere, and it was an awesome job. I loved working there. It was awesome for a while. But, when I was there, I would always try to make things easier. I hate this old, long process of things you got to do this way. I was always make it shorter. You know what I mean? And my boss would always tell me, I pay you to work, not to think. Yo, my live still? 1 second. Okay, bet. Yeah, so they used to always tell me, I'm paying you to work, not to think. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to work. So as I started working, I would just get tired of these things. They wouldn't appreciate my value. You know what I mean? So I opened my own business. I opened up an oil change business. It was called Sin City Lube. That's when I was living in Las Vegas, and I would do oil changes and I would do all these things, and I was getting paid good money. I appreciate you, Quan. I would get, I was getting paid hella good money doing that too, and plus my job. You know what I mean? It's not about, at the end of the day, it's not about the money. Because I still didn't feel like I was fulfilling my purpose. You know what I mean? So I was battling with a bunch of different things too. I was dealing with, I miss my moms. I miss my family. I wanted to come back home to Houston, and I was just having all kind of other thoughts. I knew I could come back home, but I just felt some type of way. I wanted to stay there. I felt like my calling was there and all these things. And long story short, something happened, and my mom got hella sick, and I ended up coming back to Houston. and I ended up helping her out, you know what I mean, with her health. And I ended up having to quit my job. I ended up having to quit John Deere, you know what I mean? And it was very strange. It was kind of scary, you know what I mean, because I've been there for hella years, you know what I mean. But when I came to Houston, I was already, like, I know I'm kind of jumping around, but prior to me coming to Houston, I was already looking into spirituality. I was already studying. I had already found a mentor. His name is Mike, and we used to always hang out, and we would talk about the 12 universal laws, the law of attraction, the law of manifestation, the law of correspondence, all these things. We would talk about them, and it was helping me start building the reality I wanted, but I was still not understanding how to use that to make money. You know what I mean? Because I was still had what they call limiting beliefs, right? I was believing that I wasn't able to do this, I wasn't able to make this, or charge this unless I had to work hard like I did at John Deere. You know what I mean? So long story short, I was working out and I was doing all these things. Like I said, I found my boy. I love you too, dog. I would work out all the time. I would do all these things, and I was into fitness. I was running my house was a mile from the gym. So I would run, I would get off of work from working outside all day. I would get to my house, I would run a mile to my gym, and I would work out for 2 hours there with the homies, and then I would run a mile back. Very active. I was eating supposedly well, and I was still having like high blood pressure issues, right? Like my hands were shaking, and I was like, all these kind of issues I was having with my body, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, because I felt like I was, eating right. I was doing all these things. I was eating the most organic meat. I had some homies who were hunters. I used to get elk from them. All these like super clean ways, but I was still eating a lot of meat, animal products. So, long story short, two of my homies, Santana and Dro, they had told me about this video, and it was talking about Dr. Sebi and about how he healed. This was around 2016, 2017, and how he healed all kind of diseases, from high blood pressure to diabetes to AIDS to herpes, all kind of crazy shit, just from changing their diet. You know what I mean? And she was like, I remember Santana was like, man, Sebi say that protein shakes is toxic for the body. You know what I mean? And eating chicken and all that shit is bad for you. And I was like, man, there ain't no way. You know what I mean? Because look how swole I am. And I used to be 230 pounds, 18-inch biceps, swollen, and all these things. And I was like, there's no way. And hold on for 1 second. It was no way. So I sat in my room that night, and I was like, man, trying to figure out what was going on. And I ended up doing some research, like a Virgo does, on the topic. And I remember looking into Dr. Sebi, the carbon papers, and all these, Dr. Africa, Dr. Robert Morse, John Rose, all these different people who was talking about plant-based and how they healed. And I really started, getting into that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I remember I'm real radical when it comes down to the information. So I went straight to the fridge. I threw everything away. You know what I mean? You can't have the wrong water, the wrong ketchup, all that shit. I became real radical with it, and I became like alkaline diet. You know what I mean? And I actually healed myself. I was able to reverse my high blood pressure and all the other ailments that I was having with my body by doing this. But it was kind of hard to maintain that lifestyle. It's not hard, but it was hard for me. You know what I mean? Because I was very active, and I was, it was hard for me to eat raw, and I kind of wanted to eat I didn't want to be so radical with it. You know what I mean? So I kind of went back, and I was like learning how to eat better, right? So it's like your vegetables. Eat organic fruits and vegetables, because they don't have no pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, and all these things that cause problems to your body, nervous problems to your body and your nervous system. And that's what causes you to be overweight and have too much testosterone or too much estrogen. Any of these things, they come from those, right? And it also comes from eating animal products, right? Whenever you eat animal products, they cause you to have hormone disruption. And that's what causes you to have a hard time losing weight and gaining the muscle that you have. But after consistent years and years and years and years and years and years and years, trying, you will get the body that you seemingly desire. But like you see many bodybuilders, unfortunately, they get heart attacks and all kind of diseases, and it's like because of your diet. You have to make sure that you eat good. But anyways, back to what I was saying. I was really looking into that, and I remember Sadhguru and all these guys would talk about, if you want your spirituality to get better, you need to abstain from meat, you need to eat light, you need to eat fruits and all these things like that. So I started doing that, and I would read books like The Celestine Prophecy, The Alchemist, and all these different kind of books. And I was trying to figure out, how can I how do I crack the code? You know what I mean? How do I become spiritual? And how do I make money? How do I abundance and all this? You know, everybody's saying all these things like in the book, The Secret. And how do I do that? You know what I mean? And I remember as I, going to work, working on my side business, working on myself, spirituality, my diet, working out, all these things I was doing, talking to my mom, trying to make sure she was good at home. She ended up getting sick. I ended up coming back to Houston. I haven't quit my job. Was really hard for me, but when I came to Houston, I was already on some spiritual stuff. Like I'm saying, I already found myself a little bit. You know what I mean? I was like, you know what? I remember I was meditating outside because I was freaking out. You know what I mean? About my mom being in the hospital and all these things, and it was like the Creator was like, yo, you gonna be part of the Great Awakening. There's gonna be a Great Awakening here in Houston and all around the world, and you're part of it. And whether you like it or not, whether you participate or not, it's gonna happen. So I was like, man, I want to be part of that for sure. You know what I mean? I believe in the Great Awakening. I feel like I'm awakening too. You know what I mean? Like, what we got to do. So as I started looking into what my friend was telling me, a few people. Matter of fact, my boy Jinx right here, my boy I am. A few people have told me about, yo, check out human design, check out astrology. I think you would dig that. It's kind of challenging, but I think you can dive through it and you can help us out. And I was like, all right, cool. I remember looking into that, and guess what? I would look into, human design and astrology, and I was like, how can I make this into a business? How can I make this into making money? How can I do this? And it's like, first you got to find out who you are through those tools, right? You need to find out who you are, what your gifts are. In human design, you have a section that says your gifts. Everybody has gifts. And these special gifts, they're not gonna mold you, but they're molded in you to be successful a unique way. And not everybody's supposed to be coaches. Not everybody's supposed to be speakers. Not everybody's supposed to be these things, but everybody's supposed to express themselves. And you can express yourself by going live like I'm going live, by posting what you love to post, and by making merch about the things that you like to do and how you like to, your colors and all these things, because that's individual, that's unique to you. That's your God-given uniqueness. You know what I mean? So we got to use those things. So as I was looking into human design, as I was looking into astrology, into all these self-help and how to make yourself better, all these things like that, it's like at the end of the day, it's all about you. And it dawned on me, a while ago that all these books that I done read, it's people expressing themselves, and they done sold this book, they done wrote this book, and they done sold it for $12 or however much they sold it for. And many people, because you know why? They done tapped into a niche that many people don't know what their purpose is, and they don't know how to make their job, how to make an entrepreneur business and make it successful. So they make these books to help you get better, and at the same time, that is their purpose, right? Their purpose is to teach people, because their purpose was to learn how to be a good entrepreneur. Now they wrote this book, and then that's why you're paying for it, and that's why they get money for that shit, right? And they posting it and doing webinars and they're doing all these things. So ideally, I don't want to say you have to do the same thing. We're not here to copy nobody, but people want to hear your testimony, right? Like they say that in church. Whenever you are converted, whenever you become a Christian or whatever faith you are, you want to they say, man, come up to the front and tell us your testimony. And they're not showing off, they're not trying to embarrass you, but they want other people to hear how God delivered you from whatever. You know what I mean? That's the same thing for you. So it's like, yo, whatever you done went through, whatever you good at naturally, and whatever you done studied, you learn how to make that marketable for people, because there's people everywhere that's ready to pay for what you have to give. But if you don't believe in yourself, you will never post anything. You will never make a website. You will never make a program. You will never look for subscribers. I'm not post anything. You will never make a website. You will never make a program. You will never look for subscribers. I'm not looking for the wrong things. You know what I mean? And you'll never move forward. So I'm running out of time and I'm running out of battery, but I'm here to tell you guys that please continue to check out my lives, continue to look into who you are, look into human design, look into astrology, because that in there is where your money lies. That's where your success lies, right? And you can look into your chart and be like, man, I still don't understand what I need to be doing. Like, you know what I mean? I hear what you're saying, but I don't know what to do. Man, look, hit me up in my DM. Check out my link tree. I got a website in there. I got a quiz you can take, you know what I mean? And it'll put you in a category, what type you are, and how you can better move forward and building the dream and the life that you're born to live. And whatever that might be, the craziest thing, it doesn't matter. And there's actually a booking section where you can book a free phone call, and we can talk about your personal experiences and how we can make that profitable and make that a successful business where you're not having to work all the 50 days a week or 50 hours a day and all this extra shit that the old paradigm. We're here to create the new stuff, right? And that's what we're here to do. And that's why I'm here broadcasting to you from the Mike Elohim Network, Mike Elohim broadcast from the Operation New Earth. That's what we're here to do, right? So if we end up cutting the transmission, check out my website, check out my Instagram, check out all my lives, and we're going to move from here. I'm here to help you build your higher self, help you build a connection to your higher self, right? Because you already have your higher self, but we're here to remember who we are. We're not here just to work a 9 to 5. We're not here just to slave away, yo. We're here to do more. So, does anybody know about astrology besides me in here? What is your astrology sign? Tell me what your astrology sign is. Let's talk about what you're here to do. And they have, so many different interpretations about what your astrology sign is here to do and what you're here to do. But your astrology is just the beginning. This is literally just the beginning. What is your basic type and what you're here to do, what you like to do? That's astrology. Human design is like knowing what design you are inside. It's like, imagine you're a cartoon character, you're a video game character, and this is your stats. Mike Elohim, manifesting generator. Wait to respond. Satisfaction is whenever I know I'm successful, whenever I know I'm in the right way of succeeding. Frustration is whenever I'm out of alignment. Learning, it says the best places for me to be successful is internal caves. And it's like, what is an internal cave? That's like small markets. And because of my profile type is a 2-4, and that means that I'm here as a hermit opportunist, meaning I'm all the time working by myself in my cave. And then I go outside and I find a lot of opportunity. I meet opportunity at its face with people having problems and having needs, and then I'm able to serve them because I've been working as a hermit the whole time. Because I'm working on whatever helped me out, and guess what? The whole collective needs that too. And that's the same thing for you. So whatever you're here to do, if you have a hard time figuring out what that is, if you're having a hard time scaling it or making it into a business or making it a reality, like that's what I'm here to help you do. You know what I mean? And let's make it practical. Let's make it easy. You don't have to quit your job tomorrow. If you're ready to quit tomorrow, man, listen, we can quit, no big deal. You know what I mean? We can quit for sure. But before you quit, you know what I mean? Book a session, call me, set up an appointment. Let's set this shit up because you know what? You don't have to quit just right now. And we can set up a way to where you can make hella money, and we can set up your audience where you can make hella money. And you can have an audience and you can have a community that's looking for what you're here to offer, right? A lot of us have so many different gifts and skills that we gotta start promoting those things and using those, right? I was reading a book yesterday. It was called Spiritual CEO, and she was saying something like, in your traumas, that's where your magic lies. You know what I mean? So I know that's hard to understand, but if you can imagine, like the trauma of me having to go to, and that's not a real big trauma, but just for conversation purposes. For conversation purposes, it's like my trauma is I have to work hard. You know what I mean? And I gotta earn money. I gotta do all these things. I have to work all these hours. And man, look, remove all that trauma. You don't need to do that. Through my trauma, through me having to work hard, I looked on ways to how to make myself not have to work hard. Right? I was like, man, how can I make money while I sleep? Residual income that everybody talks about. How do I do all these things? I looked into digital products. I looked into regular products. I looked into coaching, all these different kind of ways. And it's like, what aligns with you? You can drop shit for Amazon if you want to, but there's no purpose in that. Besides making money to pay your bills or to move forward, there's no purpose in doing that, right? So it's like, what? Don't do anything. Don't jump into no business that don't have no purpose. If you got an Uber, when you're Ubering, you better be talking to the person behind you about what their purpose is and tell them, oh yeah, I'm a coach. I can do that. You know what I mean? Whatever your gift is, you need to be promoting that shit to people. And you don't have to be a salesman and shove it in their throat. But people are sick of doing the regular stuff. They're looking for personal experiences. In the world of AI, artificial intelligence, and fake people online, like we're looking for authenticity. You know what I mean? So it's important for us to be authentic in who we are and the experiences we have, because believe it or not, a lot of people are going through the same thing, if not similar things or worse, right? So I want to shift the conversation to something called the universal laws, the 12 universal laws. He said you work 37 hours today. Damn, that's only 24 hours in one day. Okay, so we need to help you work less and find your purpose, bud. Book an appointment and we can talk about it personally. All right, so I remember now we were talking about the 12 universal laws. I'm not going to talk about all 12 of them today, but we'll talk about just a few. The ones that it seems like a lot of people know about. They know about the law of attraction. You know what I mean? They know about the law of manifestation. If you don't know about what those are, we'll talk briefly about it, but I kind of want to talk about how they work. So the law of attraction, or LOA for short, is, for lack of a better term, what you feel, what you think is what you attract. I'll give you an example. You want a new vehicle, right? Your car is just a piece of shit car and you're ready for a new ride. You know, you can't afford it right now, but it would be nice to get a new car, right? So let's just dream, let's just follow this path, right? So you get online on your phone or on your website, on your laptop, and then you get on Carvana, you get on CarMax, you get on the dealership that you want the car from, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give you an example myself. I wanted a truck, you know what I mean? And I looked at all these places and I looked at the prices, how much this is, how much this is. And I was like, man, you know, I don't want the cheap one. I want the leather ones. You know what I mean? I want the one with the lifted. I want one with the tires. I want the works. You know what I mean? And then like in my head, I hear guys saying, well, what color do you want? You know what I mean? And I was like, maybe white, maybe black. I'm not sure. You know what I mean? Okay, what brand you want? I'm like, man, I think I want a Ram. You know what I mean? Okay, cool. And I started looking at it, started thinking about it, and I'm like, man, but them prices, man, it's too much. I can't afford that right now. You know what I mean? I don't got a job right now. You know what I mean? I got to live a little modest. I got to chill. I'm still learning how the spiritual shit works. You know what I mean? And long story short, I ended up doing a gig, and the person loved the gig that I did, and they introduced me to somebody else, and I helped them with their human design chart. And I charged them $1,000. And with that money, I was able to use that as a down payment to go get the truck that I wanted. I looked up online, I found the truck that I wanted. It looked like it was a white one. It was a white Ram Rebel. I went to the spot, and it was a gray one. And the guy was like, you didn't tell me white or you didn't tell me black, so I gave you one in the middle, a gray one. And I was like, all right, cool. You know what I mean? So I ended up putting down payment, all the works, you know what I mean, and I got the truck, you know what I mean, and I got it co-signed with my mom's, and she was in the car with me, and we ended up driving back home, and I was happy, man. I love this car, man. There's airbags and all this cool stuff. It was literally everything I wanted. I don't want to say except for the color. I don't mind gray, but I whatever. As I was driving home, you know, I had something started happening to the truck. It was like all these lights started coming on, you know what I mean, and I started having self-doubt immediately. Like, man, here we go. I just got this car. It's already fucking up. And the money that I don't put down is gone. I'm already thinking all this in my head. And I'm like, man, nah, don't think it like that. You know, the light's going to go away. It was like an hour away from my house. So I ended up driving back to my house with the truck. And I went to go put some fuel in the truck. And guess what? When I got there, the car, I turned it off to put fuel in. I filled it up. And then the truck wouldn't turn on. And I was freaking out, you know what I mean? I called the dealership. Long story short, they said, man, you know, we're going to get a tow truck to come over there and get it. I waited for 20 minutes, and the truck turned back on. And I called him, and I was like, yo, it's back on. You know what I mean? No big deal. And I should have known right there, you know what I mean? Something was wrong. I should have returned it right there. But I was like, nah, I'm going to keep going. Long story short, I kept it for like 6 months, and it kept giving me these issues. It kept dying on me. Long story short, it ended up bricking on me, meaning I couldn't move it. I couldn't do nothing with it. I couldn't even turn it on. I couldn't do nothing. It was just sitting in my driveway, and I was paying, you know, $900 a month for this fucking truck, and I couldn't even do anything with it. And I was so mad. I'm like, God, why are you doing this to me? Why are you doing this to me? And you know, and the guy was like, man, you really didn't want it, so what's the problem? You know what I mean? You was always bitching about you wanted another one, and well, there you go. And whenever I gave you a sign to turn it back, you didn't do it. And then now here you are 6 months later with this issue. But don't worry, I will help you out. Go back into the website and look into what truck you really want. And when I was first looking at trucks, I was looking at a Tundra, and I was like, nah, I'm not gonna get a Tundra because it's too expensive. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, 50 bands and $1,000 a month, 1,200 a month. I can't afford that. I might as well get a Ram. What do you call it? What are those Fords called? The Ford Raptors. I might as well get that if I'm gonna get in Tundra. You know what I mean? But here I am, with a brick in front of my house, and I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? Okay, you know what? I'm not gonna mess around no more. I'm not gonna get on CarMax. I'm not gonna do none of this extra shit no more. I'm gonna go straight to the dealership online. I'm gonna look up the Tundra that I want. I want this Tundra. I want it to have this. I want it to be leather seats. I really don't care if it has this, but I want it to be white. I want a white one. I'm saying white because I like how the white blends in and it makes it look normal. And the black one is cool, but here in Houston, it's really hard. It gets dirty really quick. White, the dirt blends in with it, and you can't even see it's dirty. And I'll be busy. But anyways, I'm saying all this shit because I found somebody a dealership that was selling it. They had two of them. So I was like, oh, here it is. But here I can't even turn on my truck. And then the creator was like, yo, go to sleep, take your ass to bed, and tomorrow, see what happens. Don't worry about it. Just have faith. And I was like, all right, cool. So I went to bed, woke up in the morning, and I was like, I'm going to turn on the car and check it out. And I heard like the voice in my head was like, yo, don't turn it on. Get dressed, book the appointment, tell them you're going to go today. And I was like, man, but I got to check. I like to make sure. Da, da, da. Guess what? I ended up getting myself ready. I ended up going to this. I ended up turning on. I ended up getting in my truck. And guess what? The truck turned on immediately. And it turned on, and I was already ready. So I hopped in the truck and I drove to the dealership. And when I got to the dealership, long story short, I got my truck. I let them know everything that was going on with it, with me, with everything in my life. They understood. No questions asked. I didn't even have to put any money down, yo. I got my truck. I was happy with it. And guess what? Now I have the truck that I want. It doesn't give me no issues, right? And this is how it starts working in your life, right? This is how the law of manifestation works. This is how the law of attraction works. This is how you're able to use it in your favor, right? You can't just want to do it. You actually have to start doing actions to do these things, right? And it can happen just as that fast, and it can take a little bit longer. I read somewhere it says the amount of time it takes for your vision to come true depends on the amount of faith that you have. So if you have a little bit of faith, it might take a long time. If you have a lot of faith, it's going to take a little bit, it take faster. You know what I mean? So it's important to have faith, right? And it says in the Bible and other texts, as long as you have faith as small as a grain of mustard seed, you can move a mountain, right? So that's what we're here to do. We're here to have faith. Have faith in what you're here to do. Have faith in your business. Have faith in what you're here to create. Have faith in that God's going to take care of you and whatever you're here to desire. Whatever you're here to bring and whatever you desire, right? So that's how the law of attraction works, right? And the law of manifestation, they both work at the same time. I'll give you a smaller one. Like sometimes it doesn't, I've been working with this for a while, and it came a little faster than I did because I was working with it. Versus somebody, I remember my little brother, I was teaching him about the law of attraction, and he understood it, but he wanted to see it in action. So he did just like I did. He went on Carvana and all the other places to look up online to see how much it cost and the car that he wanted. And then after he was done, he was like, yeah, man, there's a lot I can't afford that. And I was like, man, don't worry about that. We're just practicing the law of attraction. So we ended up having to go to Walmart, and as we're driving to Walmart, we got to a red light, and at the red light, it was a 18-wheeler full. He wanted a Mustang. It was an 18-wheeler full of Mustangs. It's not just any Mustangs; they were full of black ones, and he specifically wanted a black Mustang. So now this is a glitch, to what I call a glitch, what we call glitches, a glitch in the matrix. This is the creator, the universe, telling you, yo, I hear what you're saying. Here's a confirmation email. Here it is. Whatever you want is coming your way, but you got to do aligned action. That's another universal law, right? So as you start learning the universal laws, you're able to start attracting and manifesting and creating the life and the things that you want. But if you don't know what the laws are, you can't even use them in your favor. And sometimes you do them naturally without even knowing, because like they're called universal, they're universally innate inside you. But you have to, once you recognize them and you start applying them in your life, that's how you're able to start changing your life, right? So my brother, I was living in Vegas, and this happened whenever he was over there visiting me, and he ended up coming to back to Houston where he lived, and he was dating this chick at the time, and he was considering moving. They were moving together. out of the city where we live at, and he was asking me about it, like, you think you should do it? And I was like, man, follow your heart. So he followed his heart, and he ended up going to go move. Him and his girl moved together, and they had a spot. And he ended up, obviously meeting his girlfriend's parents, and his girlfriend mom had a car for sale. Guess what car it was? A black Mustang, just like the one he was looking for. And he didn't have to have no credit check. He didn't have to have no down payment. He had his own personal download, manifest in reality. And that's how easy it can be for all of us, right? Once we know the universal laws and once we start applying them into our life, anything can happen. Anything that you wish can happen. So we start using these universal laws to help you design and to help you build the life that you want to live. Once you learn about the human designs, once you learn about the 12 universal laws, then you understand how energy works. Then you find out about astrology, you find out who you are and what your type is, and then you find out about human design, then you find out, okay, this is my design, this is my type, this is my energy, this is how I'm supposed to work with my energy. This is how I can become successful, and these are the gifts that I have. Because these charts, they don't know the traumas that you have, but they have like the imprints of the traumas that you have gone through. So you have to understand. They give you the gifts of the traumas that you've gone through, and then you have to you will look at them, and then you will see, okay, this is the gift and this is the shadow, and then you remember, oh yeah, this is why that happened, and guess what? I overcame it, and this is why I have patience, and this is why I'm resilient. This is why I have courage, and this is what, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what human design helps you do. So now you see all of these skills, and you're like, okay, well, how can I apply these? You apply them by the experiences that you had in your life, and by being a teacher, and by being an example, and by being of service, and by being having products for sale. That's how you start your business, and that's how you start acquiring independence from these systems, from the matrix, how they call it, from keeping you in bondage, having to work 9, 12, like my boy said, 32 hours, 37 hours today. Like, as a construction worker, there's better ways to do that. And not everybody can quit. Not everybody has to quit. Not everybody has to find their job. Look, some people like to work. Some people want to do gigs, like we talked about in the beginning. Some people want to help. Some people want to get paid to move bricks from one side to the other. And guess what? The person that's paying the person that's moving bricks from one side to the other, that's me. I'm paying him to do this labor for me because I'm not destined to do that labor anymore. It's not above me. I used to do that, and guess what? I can still do that. But me paying him $10 an hour at 10 hours, that's $100, is easier for me than me doing it, and I'm worth $100. I say I'm worth $100. He chose to charge only $10 an hour. So that's why we decided to do these new things, right? We start to establish these new systems to help us move forward and help us achieve these things, right? So it's like I can pay somebody to make a grill for me, because out of that grill I'm gonna cook and I'm gonna make plates out of it, and I'm gonna be able to make my money back and pay homie back. That's ideally how it is, right? On a small scale. So everybody doesn't have to quit. Everybody doesn't have to be a CEO. Everybody doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. But for those who are ready to move forward, who are ready to live a life that they want to live besides a 9 to 5, who have a dream, who have an invention, who have an idea, who have a passion, that's who I'm talking to. That's who this is for, right? So if you have an idea, if you have a dream, if you have a business you want to think about, if you don't have a dream or an idea, if you want to not be enslaved anymore, hit up my inbox, hit up my DMs, check out my website, check out my link tree, book a free session. It's a free phone call session, and we can go from there. So I appreciate everybody coming through. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to eat a little bit of lunch, and I'm going to come back in about an hour. Stay tuned. Follow me. Appreciate you guys. Peace.